Hello, everyone. Hi, Robin.
Hi, Heidi.
Hi. Robin and I were just chatting before coming on, and we were kind of chuckling a little bit because one of our listeners had submitted a question, but also a comment. And her comment was that it would be nice to hear from Robin a little bit more. They love hearing from Athena, but they would also like to hear from Robin. It makes a little bit more of a personal connection. We find it funny that today we had decided to actually hear more from Robin. So it was a little bit of a synchronistic message that we got from this listener. So that's pretty cool. And we're going to start off with that same viewer's question. And then we're going to go into talking about Kundalini energy. And we're going to talk about Robin's experience with it. And we're going to also let Athena weigh in on some of the questions that I have regarding that. So we're going to start off with, today I was nearly scammed. Thank goodness I realized it before I went too far. I'll spare you the details, but essentially it was an extremely elaborate plot that stemmed from my positive comment on YouTube that I nearly fell for. At first I cried because I was disheartened that someone could do such a thing and that I could be possibly attracting this to myself. Then I realized that I didn't get scammed. I discovered the scam before anything serious had happened. So which is it? Did I attract the scammer? And what could I have possibly done to attract it? Or was I at a high vibration so that such a thing could not negatively affect me?
We would tell you that, yes, scammers do exist. So they are part of your experience or out there. Let's say that, yes. And we do think that to some degree, her vibration or the vibration she was holding prevented her from pulling the trigger and submitting herself to the scammer. But also we are going to tell you again that most people are attracting, we shouldn't say most, all people are attracting experiences to themselves based on whether they like something or don't like something, or if they even have a detesting of something, which we would say more in the case of her. The one that has written this question is about fairness, about honesty, about trust, about loyalty. And you cannot hold a strong opinion about anything without being the attractor of everything that is connected to that type of experience. So we would tell you that, yes, she is the creator of the experience that was attracted to her, but in the high vibratory level that she held in regard to those things, she was able to make the correct choice or the right choice so that she was not negatively affected by it. But it's just a little signal really to her and to all those that are listening that you can't hold a view of, this is the inclusive universe we're talking about. There's nothing that you can hold a view on, whether it be positive or negative, and not have those experiences coming towards you or at you. And this is what occurred here. But luckily for her, she held enough vibration in not wanting this to occur, in not wanting to be scammed or to be taken advantage of, that it leveled it out and she did not have the experience occur. But we want to be clear to you again that just because you don't like something or you don't want something doesn't mean that you are eliminating it from your experience, because you are attentive to it. You're having some interest in it. And when this happens, the universe automatically rounds things up that are a match to this way of thinking, you see.
Okay.
I'm coming back in as Robin because she just came in to answer the question. So it'll be a little bit of in and out today.
Yes. Yes. So maybe you can start, we'll start with your kind of definition of what you think Kundalini energy is, and then we can also ask the group. So what do you call Kundalini energy and the experience of it?
Well, first I'd like to just start out by saying I don't talk a lot about myself because I'm not really what you would deem as a woohoo person, although my daughter-in-law makes me laugh all the time because she said there's totally a lot of woohoo going on, but I just don't really participate in that or think about it that much. And, there's a certain amount of hiding that still goes on. It's hard to really out yourself in this situation and know that people are going to see you exposing yourself in ways that could be criticized if they're not believing, or of value if you are. I guess it could go either way. But I've finally come to the place where I'm I think it's important to share these things because I myself have been using the internet as a resource for so many of the things that have been happening to me bodily, mentally, as this whole thing unfolded. And without people being brave enough to come forward and actually say, you know, this is what happened, this is how it feels, these are some of the things you can expect, or markers along the trail to this happening to you, there'd be no way for you to be able to figure out what's going on. So, you know, that being said, I've decided to be more transparent about, you know, what this led up to, how it all occurred. And so just backing up before the channeling began, it was a many year process, like over 20 years ago, that I had the Kundalini experience of the rising. And I did know what it was. I had read about it, and I was doing some breath work, like chakra work. At the time, I thought I was just doing it automatically. I didn't really have the goal in mind to have that happen, but and I thought maybe that's what caused it. But now looking back on the process, I don't think anything actually causes it. I think you do things because you know it's coming. You know, it's kind of out there already. So, you know, maybe I was drawn to the chakra work, and I was drawn to books about Kundalini, and I had an interest in channelers. And I used to think that was just a passion or something that I enjoyed. But now I'm coming to realize that it's always been there. It was going to happen. And that's the reason I had the interest in it. So I used to say in the beginning, I don't know if I'm chasing it or it's chasing me. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's there, and I think it's there for everyone. But when it evolves, or when that actually occurs in your experience, it could be this life, it could be the next life. And lots of people are disappointed if it doesn't occur in this life, but they have to realize that consciousness doesn't care about individual lives. It cares about all of it. So it's not just like this one life matters. Like to us, we think, oh, I want to make it happen this life, or I want, you know, a certain achievement or level of evolution in this life that I'm in. And that's not really how it works. I think it's cumulative from one life to a lifetime. And it doesn't make anybody any bigger, any better, or that you've done anything longer, or you've been a more selfless or better person. There's no way of knowing what people have done from lifetime to lifetime. And I just think it's an accumulative thing. When it reaches a certain point, then you have this awareness, so that you start studying it, you start doing exercises, and you start following it because it's close for you. It's something that, you know, is going to start happening. So that being said, there was the dramatic experience of, you know, one night I laid down in bed and started to do the breathing into each one of my chakras. And I specifically remember my arm reaching up in the air, which was very odd for me. And that's like an involuntary movement that I would never, as Robin, do. I'm not really a religious person, and it felt as though I was reaching out for something. And at that moment, I felt what I can only describe as a strike of lightning. That's how it felt. And as lightning struck, the centers ignited. So there was a lot of noise, like spinning, hummingbirds taking off. I could feel each one of them, like actually a physical feeling of spinning in the body was sensed. And then that went on, the noise and the spinning for a few moments, but then what they call the rise of the snake started to occur. And I actually felt something uncoil at the base of the spine, and it came up and it hit each one of the centers. And there was a little bit of a piercing feeling, or what I would describe as a little bit of a pain as it passed through. And I know that I wasn't like ready for it. I probably had a lot of blockages in my body, and it got certain areas where it would back up and try to go again, and back up and try to go again, until it would finally poke its way through. And then I think what I had, looking back on it, when it reached the throat area, I think it veered off. I don't think I had a complete rise. And so, because I never felt it go through the neck and the top of the head, like I've read about or described. So, and then as those centers were pierced that way, then a feeling of hot lava pouring down through the skull, and then through your neck and chest, and a whooshing sound went through each one of the centers, as though to burn out maybe anything that was left behind. And then it completed with a full body orgasm, which I thought was pretty strange to just have happen laying there doing nothing in the middle of the night. And that's kind of what completed that incident. And then a couple of years went by, and my husband and I were on a vacation, and I thought, so again, it wasn't, I was going to do a little bit of energy work, maybe chakra work, but I barely closed my eyes, and it just took off. So it had nothing to do with the practice I was doing. It just occurred. And this time it came down through the crown of my head, and my husband could actually hear because it was so loud. There was a little pain feeling, like you could feel a lot of pressure trying. It felt as though something had clamped to my head. This what sounded like a freight train. It was so loud, it just rocked my whole entire body. And then I felt it break through there. And then that same feeling of the hot lava pouring through, no orgasm this time, just kind of went through the head and neck area. And then I feel that after that occurred, I probably should back up and say that initial awakening, or whatever you want to call it, with the initial rising of the Kundalini, really unleashed some emotion, like lots of crying, everything got dull. I didn't enjoy like going out to dinner. I didn't enjoy the simple things that I used to like to go shop or get something new to wear, or, it's like everything went flat for a period of time, almost 2 years. And I just remember it being a really dark time where I just didn't feel good and nothing was really any fun. And I thought, well, as I've read before of other people, I just want this thing to go away. Whatever it is has ruined me, and I would like it to go away. But it's like a genie that once you let it out of the bottle, there's no putting it back in. It's a consciousness, is what it is. And once it's released and it's running, you can't get rid of it. But what did happen when the rising came down the other way, things balanced out, and I started to feel like I enjoyed life again. And, the sadness and all the outpouring that kind of seemed like it was basically an emptying out of a lot of things that are stored in you from past lives, this life, or whatever it is that you've gone through. So I think, that kind of leveled everything out. And then, so that was like 20 some years ago. And after that incident occurred, there was just a knowing. I just knew that this was coming, and I don't know how to explain that, but I knew that I was going to become a channeler. I never mentioned it to you, Heidi. I never said anything to my husband because I felt kind of foolish. And I thought, well, if I go and say that and it doesn't happen, that'll make me look ridiculous, But there was this knowing that was going to come. And I do feel like, for me, I can't say for everyone, that awakening did precipitate the ability to connect. And so I think at that point, and they have told me that they were present, but that everything has to be right. The timing has to be right. The body has to be cleared out of a lot of emotion. And so that's just kind of a overall overview of it. I don't know if you have any further questions that you want to ask. I just want to give you an idea of how it kind of unfolded.
Yeah, well, before I ask any questions, I just want to let the listeners know that one of the tools that you used and that I was also using at the time that helped you learn the process was a book called Ancient Teachings for Beginners. I don't know if you remember that, Robin, but that was a book that kind of spelled out a way, not the only way, but a way where people could practice moving the energy in their body. And that's a really useful tool if someone's interested. We just wanted to put that out there. I don't know if this, obviously, Robin probably can give a good answer to this since she had that experience, but I'm thinking specifically of some of my own sessions of moving energy. And when you speak about pain and when you speak about feeling a block or a pressure, I have experienced those situations where sometimes it just feels like, particularly in my throat area, where it just feels so like much pressure and buildup. And I have this feeling in my brain that any moment it's going to move, but I haven't ever moved it. But I have felt the feeling of pressure. I have felt the feeling of pain. I felt it in my throat. I felt it in my head. So what do you suppose is preventing those of us that have those experiences from it pushing all the way through?
So what you're sensing, because what I had prior to having the Kundalini rising is, if you had an infected finger and you hang it upside down, it throbs, it's like, how that feels like. And when you're running energy in your body and you're concentrating on each one of your chakras, you'll definitely start to get a buildup of pressure of energy, because it's just like an infection in your finger. It can only hold so much without moving onward. And if you have a blockage there, it prevents it from doing that. So that's what you're feeling when you have a blockage in your throat or whatever. So it's kind of nature's way, or spirit's way, call it that, of making you really take a look inside of like for you in particular, if you're locked in your throat area, you have to start using that, and you have to start allowing your truth to be revealed, and not be holding things inside. And as far as you feeling blockage up above, that pertains to the one, if there's a chakra that's really blocked up below, oftentimes it'll be felt in the one above and below it as well. So it'll affect a couple of them at the same time. So it sounds to me, you let me know if I'm putting words in your mouth, but like you really felt like the throat chakra was the main problematic area or the culprit. And oftentimes you do have that understanding. So what I did just innately, and for some reason just knew to do, is when I sensed a blockage like that, I made my whole practice centered around that chakra. That was the only one. And I just let it know that I knew that this was where the problem was. Mm-hmm. And I just kept breathing into that one. And I worked on that one. I would do it for a week or 2 weeks until I would feel that pulse or that heavy feeling that you're talking about, or even a little pain, because it's so much energy built up in there. And then if I felt it in the next one, I would do the same. So I would kind of break them apart and then focus concentration on the ones that were giving me a problem. And then after I did that individually for certain ones that were problematic for me, then I would go back to the full bottom to the top work. And then eventually that's how I got it cleared out. Mm-hmm.
So just so our listeners, if they are interested in pursuing a practice like this, and we also know that it's different for every person, but about how long did you spend when you would sit down to move energy? About how long would you be doing the process for each time?
Yeah, I guess, just want to say, looking back on it, I felt like I was the facilitator of it, but now I know I wasn't. So it's hard to predict what would happen for each individual person, because as I told you, that second Kundalini experience I had, I wasn't really regularly meditating. I wasn't regularly doing the practice. I just thought about it for a minute and thought, oh, maybe I'll do it tonight. And I closed my eyes and it happened. So the experience occurred. So I can't really say that the focused attention is going to make it happen, but you will, as a human or person, have this awareness yourself, because as we get into this talking about Kundalini and some of the other things that are happening that go along with it, as it's still unfolding and evolving in me, you'll get the understanding that the consciousness will drive you. It will bring you to do certain practices. It'll bring you to certain books. It'll bring you to certain people. And although you think you're doing it, you're not. You're being led. That's what'll happen.
Sure. Would you say initially when you first started the practice, would you say you were doing it 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour? Like how much time do you think you were actually?
Not that long. I mean, I would say 15 minutes, maybe, before, as long as I could do it. I always did it before sleep. Mm-hmm. And so whenever I get tired, which would be maybe 10 to 15 minutes, depending, I would fall asleep, and then, that would be the end of it. And so I wouldn't say, for me, I think I probably did the practice pretty steadily for maybe 4 months, mm-hmm. and not great lengths of time, and not every night, but periodically during the week, I would say. Yeah. But again, I've read stories that there's monks that have meditated their entire lives and done the breath work and done the concentration focus, and have never had it occur. So, and then I've heard about people who walk out and slip on the ice and land on their tailbone and set off their Kundalini. So I just think that there's something in every human that just reaches a point of this being ready to happen, and then it happens.
Sure. Did you see any colors? Like that's something that I've experienced sometimes when I'm moving mm-hmm. energy and I'm focused on a chakra. In my mind's eye, mm-hmm. the color will vividly appear. Is that something you also experience?
Yes. And for me, more primarily the purple color of the mm-hmm. like third eye color would, mm-hmm. if I would focus inwardly, which I mean, it's kind of like looking at your nose, but you're looking at your third eye. That's where I would see the dark violet color. I don't remember. I did see one time I was having a block in my throat chakra, like you talked about. I had some situations in my life that were going on where I wasn't really speaking my truth. And I just felt really awful in that area. And I came in and looked in the mirror, and it illuminated in that aqua color. It was almost like a sign to me that this is the one, this is where you're struggling right now. And I just knew that to be true. So I think very often you can be shown a color. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was one of my questions, and we're going to ask it to Athena in a little while. But the spontaneous, like you mentioned, somebody who falls down and they spontaneously
Mm-hmm.
have a Kundalini rising. What about that makes that happen without effort? Do you think, as Robin, that it's just that they've been working on this from lifetime to lifetime, and
No.
this is
Mm-mm.
what made it happen that way, or what do you think makes it happen spontaneously?
No, because actually people who have had this occurred spontaneously have no spiritual background at all. In fact, they're really upset by it, floored, and some of them go into like some really out there spiritual experiences, out of body experiences, stuff that just literally scares the hell out of them. And they had no idea that this was even possible. So in answer to that question, I would say no. There are some people who are spiritually practicing and aware, and then there are people who just awaken and have no awareness at all. None.
And do you think that the high part of them, though, maybe that's the way that they were going to bring it into this life or this experience, is
Yeah.
they weren't studying it, they weren't talking about it, and now they have this where they can't deny it. It's part of their experience.
Right, right. And I do think it's such a indescribable process, the whole thing, and it evolves over such a period of time, and then it becomes somewhat natural to you, as you have it. You just start to think it's normal. I'm sure if you told people exactly everything that's going on that isn't having it going on, they wouldn't think it's very normal. And we can talk about that. I don't know whether you're going to ask me those questions or not, but it's still evolving, and it comes in waves or like phases where I won't be doing any practice. I won't even be thinking about it. And then all of a sudden, it's almost like this consciousness takes over where, get to your meditation room, lay down, and then it's doing its process. And we can talk about those processes. There's a lot of different ones that are going on. And for some reason right now, it's really ramping up. Like there's a lot of things happening bodily and physically that are going on. That are related to the Kundalini. And it just seems so odd to me that you can go 10 years and things are relatively normal and nothing's happening, and then all of a sudden it re-engages and it starts its ascent again. That's what it is. It's starting to move up the energy centers. And then when that happens, you have these symptoms or effects from it.
Sure. Another question that I would have is, in my experience, sometimes I will lay down to move the energy and I feel things really well and I feel like I get a very deep experience. And then other times I lay down to do it and it feels like it's not working no matter what I do. I can't stay focused and I feel like it's just not. And is that a time that you think that you should just give up and try another day, or do you think you just stick with it? Because some days it feels really great and other days it just feels like nothing.
Yeah, I think to never be outcome orientated or expect anything. You're going to have days that are going to, like you said, feel really great and you're going to enjoy doing it. But then on the days where maybe you don't, it's not that you necessarily shouldn't do it or that you should stop doing it, but that you just don't expect it to be the same. And that's kind of what I just told you. Like over this 20-year process, it's been different. It changes. It goes from nothing to flatline to all kinds of hoopla that are indescribable, So I think that's the problem with a human is they can get attached to experiences and then they can start to expect them, and this is one thing that doesn't go by those rules. You could go 5 years and nothing, and then you could go 5 months and everything, that's just how it is. And the more you try to figure it out or control it or influence it, it doesn't matter because it's not you. You think it's you, but it's not. So you don't really have any control over it like you think you do.
Okay. All right. Well, so for a little bit, let's bring Athena in, and we're going to ask her maybe some of the same questions or some new ones about this whole Kundalini experience.
The first thing, though, I'll just tell you a little bit about what's going on right now as
Absolutely.
Robin, and then this might, and Athena might want to answer these questions too. But what I've experienced early on, not the whole 20 years back, but just prior to the group arising, were spontaneous mudras, where the hand signals. And so I had lots of this, and I'm, as you know, Heidi, you'd probably confirm that I'm not the best dancer. I'm not the most fluid bodily person. I'm a little better now that they're in, but this fluidity that came is something that is spontaneous, happens from Kundalini. So the mudras started prior to the group arriving. I didn't know what they were. But really this was already the process beginning, and I didn't realize it. And then, so now what's happened after they've been in here a while and been arrived, and this is why I'm so thankful for people putting things online, because you'd have no way of knowing or understanding what's going on if you didn't have access to these things. So it's one of the reasons I'm talking about it, is I started to go in circles, and my eyes would be closed, and then pretty soon my head would be going, really, and sometimes it goes almost wild. And it's to understand that none of this is being done by me. It's just as though if you lay down, how good it feels to have someone pick your legs up, swing them.
Yeah.
It's my whole body gets manipulated. It's almost as though something else has taken over. And so there's all kinds of bodily movements, yoga poses, flopping around in every imaginable, position that goes on. And it's this complete blissful state that you get in, and you just get called to do it, and you don't do it. You just go lay down and whatever it is does it. But so that's kind of what's going on now. And so from all the reading and research that others have put online, of course I Google, why am I getting this, my head going in circles and my body going all around. And they explain that it's on the move again. The energy is moving up, and every human has a capability of holding a certain amount of consciousness, and you have to figure out what that is. And as this energy is coming in and you're embodying it, it takes time. It's not something that happens very quickly. But the more energy you start to embody and the more expansion that you become, the more access you have to understandings and how the universe works, those type of things. So that's kind of the process that I'm in right now. And I can very much tell there's some real oddities that happen, like you'll say certain words that you're not saying. You'll make certain sounds that you're not making, and then I will go and look them up on the internet, because I think, what am I going to do with that? I don't know what Shiva means, and that would be one that would come forward and say, it's Shiva. That's what it is. And so then I would go and follow the breadcrumbs and look that up and read about it. And then sure enough, the circular motion and all these things become like a puzzle that you tie together. So that's kind of what's been going on. And it is kind of fun in a way. It's like solving something, and so I think that's how it will come to every human. There are definitely some markers on the trail, because I wouldn't be able to read about people that are having similar experiences, obviously, if there weren't some similarities. There are, but the way you find out about them and the way they involve in you are like your own special path.
Right.
So.
And also, what you reminded me of as you were talking about your more recent experiences is, and I believe I'm saying this right, I'm sorry if I'm not, but the TRE exercises, the trauma release. And so for anybody that wants to look that up, that's a really good tool for experiencing some of what Robin was talking about. You do a few fatiguing exercises to your legs, and then when you're done with those, and it's probably like 3 or 4 of them. It takes maybe 15, 20 minutes. And then you lay on the floor on your back with your feet together and your knees elevated. And you just kind of move your knees back and forth. And eventually your body will start involuntarily twitching. And when that happens and you just allow it to happen, it moves through your body in a very similar way. Like I've had some very wild shaking experiences from doing that, like in my head and my upper body. It just spontaneously come on. And it's actually how animals release stress. When an animal is chased and it's over, they shake it off, and it's a similar process to that. So that's another very good tool for someone to look into or try if they were wanting.
Right. And what you're actually taxing there in that TRE is the psoas muscle, which is kind of the storehouse for all of emotion and pain and things like that. It's those big muscles that connect the upper body to the lower body. And so that's the one that, you know, you're really releasing a lot of what's held in the system. So I think that's a great exercise. And it also provides a little bit of that out-of-body feeling. Like it makes you feel so euphoric and so happy you did it, because you can just tell that it released so much energy that was probably negative from your body. So it's something you should look up and try if you haven't tried it, because it's a very good exercise.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes it's hard to find. I mean, I think there's a few variations on it, but
it's
Robin,
trauma release exercise.
And I don't know if you still do, but I know at one point you had a link that
I did, but I got rid of that site. Yeah, but I could try to find that link again, and maybe we can post that somewhere.
Yeah, maybe we could post it if we find it in the YouTube channel notes with this
comment area. Yep. We'll do that.
All right. So are we ready to bring Athena in and ask a few questions?
Yep, we're ready. Yep.
Okay. So hello, Athena. We're talking about Kundalini energy, and we want to know if it's possible for anyone to release it in their current incarnation, or is it something that doesn't always happen in each incarnation? It's really up to the individual. What would you say about that?
The Kundalini energy is a separate consciousness, or one that is universal, but individualistic in the experience that you will have with it. You see.
Okay.
Every person has the ability. You have the Kundalini coiled at the base of the spine, you see. And as you expand in your awareness and in your consciousness through your intention and your desire, you have the potentiality of raising that energy or dislodging it. Let's use that term. And we heard Robin saying, yes, that some have fallen upon their bums and set it off. Yes, it is true. But we would tell you that although many felt that they weren't ready for it, or they didn't even have any spiritual background, that it, as you said, Heidi, it was the goal or the decision of the high self that they have the experience that they are having, you see. So in answer to your question, we are not the determiners of time or when something would occur in a human. It is something that is cellular. It is on a very deep level that is individualistic to each person that will go through it, you see. But we are always trying to get humans to understand that they are timely beings. They want things now. They want them in this lifetime. Let's use that term. And as Robin said, you are an accumulation of eternity and are a part of this, you see. And so that anything that is universal or comes from all that is, doesn't really follow the same rules or the same construct that you do upon the earth plane. So we would tell you, if it is your desire, you would not have the desire if the energy were not stimulated, or that it was not giving you that thought or the idea. You wouldn't be watching this recording or be a part of this discussion if there were not something in you that was slightly peaked or beginning or even advanced along the way in this direction. So as Robin said, it is like following a trail of breadcrumbs, and it is part of the journey that every human is on, of the evolution of their own soul. It is something that is individualistic, but it is not that one is higher than or ahead of one or better than. This is a journey that all at some point will take, and it has to come with understanding and patience. And as Robin said, when you hold an expectation for something, you create resistance. You are actually going to prevent the thing that you are wanting to occur. So once you just become joyful, become happy, become satisfied with where it is you are in your life, and then wait for more, expect more. This is the way that you will manifest anything that you're wanting, including the rising of the Kundalini in your experience.
Okay. So let's just take Robin as an example. She's released it in this incarnation. Next incarnation, is she going to have to go through this whole process again? Will it be easier for her to have it happen, or does it not have to happen again because it happened now?
Yes, it will not happen again. Once you have done this, once you have achieved this level of consciousness, and that's what it is. It is a level of consciousness that you now have as part of you a part of your being or part of your body, you see. She will continue along this avenue or way of being from one lifetime to the next. So in answer to your question, no, you do not start over or repeat something once you have had it occur.
Okay. And how would one know if they've already done this in a previous incarnation and not needing it in this incarnation? Would they just simply not be interested in doing things pertaining to moving energy? Would it not be in their mind? Or how would they know if they've had this experience already?
They would be on a path of teaching, of instruction, of spiritual, they would be on a spiritual path or endeavor that they would already be using the gifts or the things that come along with the energy. They would be in service. Let's use that term.
Okay. All right.
Just like Robin now. She's in service now, you see. She's laughing a little in the background. Is she perfect? Absolutely not. But she is governed by a consciousness that drives her to serve, you see. And this is how anyone will be once this energy is released within them.
Okay. So when Robin was in, we were talking about a couple of ways that the Kundalini can be released. One, through the practice of moving energy through the chakras. Another, being potentially an accident where it spontaneously happens. Are there other ways besides those two ways that someone might experience a Kundalini rising?
Your desire is the main driver in the rising of the Kundalini. It is what will provide the books, the teachers, the avenues, the ways that you are looking for will all come through the desire that you hold to expand in this way. So we would tell you the number one thing for rising the Kundalini is your desire. And when we talk about desire, we aren't talking about selfish desires. We're talking about a desire to serve, a desire to help others, a desire to do a job well, a desire to share, a desire to be selfless, a desire to be giving. These are the ones that will achieve this level of consciousness. And so when we talk about desire, we talk about desire in purity, desire that is coming from a desire to serve.
Okay. So can you kind of give us an idea of some of the feelings that someone might experience as they're working on their energy centers in this process? What are some of the feelings, emotions, things that would come up for people?
Yes. First of all, we talked about the pulsation or the feeling of blockages. So that has been explained, that one can detect this as they are trying to draw energy up from the base and move it through each one of the centers. When they reach one that is blocked, it will become heavy or feel as though like an infected finger. Robin used that description. It's a good one. Yes. So this is one of the ways. One of the other things that we want to talk to you about, and Robin experienced it, is the black night or the dark night of the soul. And what is this really? It is the recognition of everywhere you are dark, you see. You will begin to say something or do something to another, and the Kundalini will not let you get away with it. She will shine her light everywhere within you and make you feel the feeling, yes, of what it is you are feeling about anything, someone else, any negativity that you have. You will become keenly aware of yourself, and it will not feel good. You will not like yourself. You will feel as though you are not pure. You are a bad person sometimes. Yes, Robin can remember this. But she realizes now that all it was doing was letting her know areas that are causing a disconnect or not congruent or in alignment with the energy, see. And this is what you go through for the period of several years. She went through this where she felt quite down, depressed, negative. She wanted it to go away. It was because she couldn't do anything that she felt as though was not perfect or wasn't right without somehow detecting it or knowing that she'd done something. So this is part of the process that goes on. And so now what has happened? Has she become perfect? Absolutely not. She's just realized that humans are imperfect, that you are living here in this tension, really. And that's what it is. There's no one here that's having a child, that's having a marriage, owning a business, are going through any type of a life experience that's not getting tension or having some type of contention or contrast, as we would call it. So this is never going away. This is something that she, instead of judging herself, that's the period of time of darkness, she was judging herself. When am I going to be perfect? When am I going to clean it all up? When is there going to be nothing there more to catch? And now she realizes that that's never going to happen. And she just decides to soothe herself out of it, to love herself when she sees something that is not lovable in human terms. Yeah. And so this is what has occurred, and this is what will occur. The Kundalini is an awareness, a keen awareness of, and we are not saying that you will not slightly change, or that there will not be perfections that are corrected or things that will come, but it's not going to come from you. It's not going to come from your judgment or your decision that you are a bad person because you said something or you did something that you have deemed as not being lovable or good or perfect. You see, it comes in your acceptance of, I'm a human, I'm messing up, I'm having experiences, that's what I am, I'm an experiencer. And then in the love of self, the spirit and the Kundalini energy, they will bring to you what your desire is, what your true desire is, where the transformation that you are wanting, you will be assisted with it. But you as a human will never do it by yourself.
Okay. Can you explain a little bit about how breath work can allow you to assist in opening chakras that potentially be blocked? Like, is that a good practice if someone feels a lump of stagnant energy and they feel a stuckness? Is the breath work a useful tool for pushing through?
Yes. What is stuck really? Overladen, too much emotion held, no more can fit. Yes. This is what we would describe as being stuck. And then it is like, we are trying to give you an example of something you human would understand. But if you overload something, to the point, a mixer bowl. Yes, let's use that example. And you keep putting the flour in and putting the flour in, and it starts to turn harder and harder, heating up. Yes, getting more and more stress upon it until finally it burns out, or it cannot turn anymore. It becomes lodged or laden with the heavy material that is in it. And this is much what happens in a human's body with emotion, you see. And it's part of what is going on in these kriyas that Robin is experiencing, this tossing around, this flinging her from one side to the other, her head going round and round, or all the things that are being done to her to actually remove or clear out much of the emotion that is left in the body. Because this body, believe it or not, is a container. It contains food and water. It contains a lot of emotions that you have not let go of that are lodged within it. And it does have a limit on what it can take. So this is the way that we would describe an overburdened chakra, is one that you have re-experienced the same emotion over and over so many times and lodged it in the same place that it is finally so plugged up that it cannot move. You see, this is what is occurring. Does that answer your question?
And you're just saying that breathing through it creates some space for it.
Yes, as it creates a push, or it is like a hose that is blocked. Imagine if there is some debris in a hose, it's very tight. Yes, and you are putting pressure. You are running more water in, but yet it is backing up, and eventually you keep pushing into it, and you will create an opening or push. Yes. Yeah. And then the energy will flow. And this is much the same you are doing with the breath work. You keep expanding it. Pressure is building, and eventually, poof, it will push it out. Yes?
Okay. Yeah. So I had asked the question earlier about, is this Kundalini something that we do release lifetime to lifetime, or, is it one and done, and we establish it as one and done? But what about for people in this life that are not sure, like maybe they're doing this practice and they're not sure if they've released it? And I know Robin gave a very detailed explanation of her experience, but is everyone that releases their Kundalini experience what Robin did, the very loud noise, the spinning of the energy centers, or is it different and individual per person? So how would one know if they're experiencing it?
There are some very distinct similarities, which is the sound of the hummingbird wings, the zzz, spinning of a wheel. Yes. These are things that the human will detect or here. We would tell you that Robin's was a little bit more of a violent rising in the fact that she did have some blockages and it did have to push its way through. So the little bit of pricking pain or some of the pressure she felt as it pierced the centers was a little bit more profound in her mind. And there are those that are more prepared for this energy to rise, and it can be a little bit more of a pleasant experience, more of but they are very aware. We would tell you that we don't think that there is anyone who would not be aware that this experience has occurred once it occurs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm familiar with those buzzing sounds. I've heard that, and I've experienced some involuntary movements in the body. I'm not sure where I'm at in the process, but when you're speaking about it, I very much have an idea of what you're talking about.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And it is we liked your question earlier when you asked, sometimes you have a very pleasant experience when you are doing your practice, and then there are other times you are not. And we would tell you you are not, and Robin is correct when she suggested that there's an expectation attached. And so we would tell you to do whatever you are called to do. If you are called to be in practice, then be in practice. If you are called to stop practice, stop practice. You see, this is the best way, because a human, we want you to be in alignment. We want you to be in your joy, in your happiness. We never want you to be forced or coerced or pushing yourself to do something. We've had conversation with those that meditate daily, and they get very upset with themselves because they get so comfortable, they fall asleep. And we said, why would you be mad at yourself for that? If you needed the rest, you needed the rest. You should love yourself for it. Yes. Oh, the meditation provided me with a nice nap. I must have needed it. We want you to get rid of the dogma, get rid of the ideas that there's a right way, a wrong way, a should or a shouldn't that one has to do. And then just allow this very natural unfolding to occur in your life.
Yes. And I had also mentioned earlier to Robin about seeing colors when we move energy in the chakras. Is there any significance to seeing a color? Does everyone see a color, or do some not see the color? And if you do see one, what is the reasoning behind it?
If you are spiritually interested, yes, and you are on a path of reading and study and knowledge, and if you are believing in what it is you are reading about the chakras, Robin can detect the colors. She can look at another person and see them in their body. She can read, I believe, Heidi, you may have done it too, the auras of people, yes. It is not to her liking to do it. She has seen some nasty colors sometimes, yes, some that are olive green, some that are boiling, that look to her as though they are like a marshmallow that has caught fire, that is black and bubbling, yes, when a person is depressed. And she said, I do not wish to be the giver of this kind of news. I do not wish to take a picture or to tell them this is what I am seeing in your energy field, see. So for her, she opts out. It's not something that she's particularly interested. However, she does use it for her own knowledge so that she can look and she can kind of know where someone is at or what it is they are experiencing. She can see the white at the top of the head if someone is spiritually open, or the purple on the crown if they are, the third eye is open. So she's able to see those things. She sees, as she saw in you, Heidi, yes, the yellow color for being an intellect, which you would agree you always have been, yes. And so not that you don't have the other colors too, it is not what we were saying, but it was a dominant thing or theme within you at the time that she was looking at these things, you see. So yes, we would tell you that if it is your desire to see them, yes, you can, but there is nothing that you're going to be able to manifest without some type of understanding or belief. Everything that is being coming to fruition or coming into existence, let's use that term, on the earth plane, someone believed in it, someone had the thought, someone had the idea, and the focus upon it, and it is what its creation is all about. So and we are telling you that these energy centers are real, they do exist, but you are not going to see them in your disconnect or in your not believing in them, you see.
Yeah, well, I think that covers all the questions I've had. I hope everyone enjoyed this. It's a little bit different twist on some of what we've been doing in the past. We thought it would be informative, and we also wanted to give Robin an opportunity to speak, because that doesn't happen very often. So we hope you enjoyed it. If you do have questions, comments, or would like to be on the show, please email me, Heidi, at athenaintruth.com.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good day.